Hello, beautiful light and soul. So, I want to go into something that's a little bit different than most people will ever approach when it comes to the spiritual path and kind of becoming a little bit more aware of self. Because the eternal question, usually first before what's my purpose, is who am I? And it's a very valid question, and yet it tends to get us into a lot of trouble. Because who am I, whether we realize it or not, especially how the English language is built at least, is a very egoic question. Now, again, it's not malintended ego, but it is an egoic question because who you are is not something that you can ever really capture in a single answer. And it's always kind of like sand through your fingertips. If you're a woman, you're obviously a daughter. But is that all of who you are? Or a man, you're obviously a son. But is that all of who you are? You can have kids if you're a mother or father. Is that all of who you are? If you're a husband or wife or girlfriend, boyfriend, doctor, nurse, if you are a hairstylist, these are all attributes to who you are. But like a really big faceted diamond, these are all just facets to who you are. And that's why that question, that eternal question of who am I, is always very difficult to be able to resolve and answer because it's not something that can be addressed by who. It's not the appropriate question to get the answer you're looking for. Now, the actual question that I always encourage people to play with and start really integrating is a little bit difficult at first, especially in the English language. But it's actually really important because it's going to really expand your horizons to get more of a grasp on your sense of self, which the question I always encourage people to encounter or ask themselves is, what am I? Now, besides the obvious, because again, in English, what you are is human, Homo sapien, male, female, that kind of thing. But when you really start playing with what you are in terms of the characteristics that you are or that you embody, all of a sudden things start changing a little bit. Because what you are is something you get to define. And what you are carries with you through every situation you find yourself in and that you encounter. So what you are, kind of think like a code, the Japanese code, samurai code, or any group of people that had a code of honor. They were always operating with each of those levels of that code within their system. Now, they embodied that energy differently. So in this case, because I often encourage people to find their own stride, but again, I know this is a little bit of an awkward question, that I'm going to share my what I am. And this is an evolving target for me. This is something that I continually tweak, but the basis of what I am is kindness, aware of self and others. That's it. That's what I am. And so in any situation I encounter, whether it's meeting somebody new, whether it is going to a networking event, or even walking down on the street by myself, I am practicing that kindness, awareness of self and others. And again, how I embody that, how I choose for that to look can be very different than how you would embody kindness if that was something that was important to you. Because maybe you're more of the type to help a little old lady across the street, or generally, like I said, if I'm walking down the street and I see trash on the ground, I will pick it up and throw it away. So kindness can look very differently. And from person to person. And it's always really funny too, because when I told my nieces this a long time ago, we were talking and they were like, well, kindness is easy. Now, again, this was a long time ago. They were little. So if they see this, they were little. Kindness is easy. And I was like, well, is it now? Because, I remember that you were sick recently and I talked to your mom. And do you feel like you were very kind to your mom? No, we were a little bit snappy with her. Yeah, I know. Kindness is easy when we're feeling good. Kindness is not easy when we're under duress, and that is when it's most important. That is when it is most important because it pushes us to be able to be aware of self and our needs. And I had that, and this is a funny story. I was at a doctor's office, and again, this was a long time ago as well, and I wasn't quite as evolved in my spiritual practice, and I was sick, and I was practicing kindness. I was really honing this in. And it was funny to me because that meant every medical professional I interacted with that day kept putting me off, putting me on the wait list, letting people go ahead of me. And it wasn't until I finally got in, I was practicing patience. I was speaking up for myself, though obviously maybe not enough. And when I finally got to see the doctor, he accused me of not being sick because I was being nice. And then I lost it. And then, of course, my test came back with higher proteins than should have been in my system. And then he realized I was actually sick. But why that was so profound to me was because we're so used to people being mean or cruel when they're sick. So when you practice that awareness of self or others, again, that doesn't mean you become a doormat. You do need to speak up for yourself to get your needs met, but can you stretch yourself to do it in a way that's a little bit more compassionate? Can you stretch yourself to do it in a way that's a little bit kinder? Now, again, this is what I am. This is what I choose to embody and practice. And I've added things over the years, but that's my foundational piece that I always go back to. So even when I'm nervous about something, I know that that's what I'm going to be. And then I allow it to unfold however it's going to unfold. So this is that moment that I'm going to really encourage you to either take mine, I'm happy to share, or really think about and feel into what you are, what is important to you. And if you're being if being a good mom is one of those characteristics that's really important to you, what does that actually mean? And if being a good mom, those characteristics, is that something you can take into life more with other people, not just your children? Because is that more compassion? Is that more consideration? Is that more attention? It gives you that space to reflect on where you're already doing some of these incredible and embodying some of these incredible characteristics, and then how can we expand it further? So that is my invitation to you. Start letting go of who you are as the crux of your center of your identity and really begin to focus on what you are. And again, you get to create that. You get to practice it. And most importantly, you can change it. If you find something isn't as much in alignment as you thought it was or isn't really a fit for you, change it. But that's the really important thing. Really, really take this moment now to please digest and think about this and sit with what you are and feel how that lands for you, because you'll find it gives you a lot more substance as you move through life.